Your mission today is to find the person that you could help today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for our Wise Agent Society Sharpen the Saw episode. Who knows what episode we're on? We're getting up there. Today we have an esteemed guest, Raymond Siddell. He's the Association of Realtors president here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about kind of realtor involvement in the association and real estate community involvement, among other things today. Thank you so much for joining us, Raymond. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well. It's getting a little chilly for my liking. Before the call, we were talking about the beach, and I was just thinking, gosh, can I book a flight right now? Because that's where I want to be, is on the beach, not in this chilly weather that we're experiencing.
Yeah, and people think I'm crazy, but I'm actually loving the cold weather. And I'm like, finally, my season is coming. I'm always so hot.
Somebody's got to love it, right? Otherwise, nobody would live here. So, but having 4 seasons and going through that transition, I don't know that we have 4 seasons anymore, but as much as we do have that transition, it's kind of nice to just be able to see all the different things that we experience here in the Midwest.
That's true. But the beach is always nice. And, I lived in San Diego a long time, and I get it. I know it's cool. It's nice and pretty. And it's like that.
You've been landlocked your whole life, right? With no water, except for a dirty swamp pond lake thing or whatever they call it. The beach is really nice, and it's always calling your name. But
Yep. It's hard to get work done in those places, though, man. All you want to do is be out by the beach. So that's the struggle, which is also what makes it a little easier to succeed in those kind of places, I've found. Because when you're used to working here, we come from we got that good Iowa work ethic, and you move to a place that's all people are pretty relaxed and want to go to the beach all day. Well, then it makes it a little easier for you to get to the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So great. Well, thanks again for joining us. It's going to be a great episode. We'll just start off maybe with how we met, which we haven't known each other for a very long time, but so far, I think that you're interesting and great and motivated and hustling fella. We're just talking about how you don't sleep much and you're always doing new things and always adding and growing to your repertoire of skills. And I believe that, and I know that about you just from what I've known so far.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate that you said so far. You prefaced it with so far. And then all the positive stuff followed after so far. I appreciate that. I think it's good to be candid and understand that, our initial impressions are hopefully the best, right? And we've obviously been able to continue to have conversations about real estate and non-real estate things. And as an agent who's actively involved in so many things, association, real estate, and outside of, it's nice to have those connections and find a common ground that's not always work.
Right. I agree. It's funny because I feel like I never talk in absolutes. So I always leave myself an out. So, you mess up down the road. I'm like, hey, well, things were good until this thing happened.
Yeah. I'll cut this clip that says so far. And then when you say, nope, I'm going to send this to you, you're like, you weren't wrong. It was up until this point.
You're like, I told you. I tried to tell you.
Yeah. No. It's all good.
So we were just talking about a little bit about, meeting before and what we've done. And so how we actually first met, I am new to the area, new to the association, and I'm trying to be more involved with the community and help with the agents and just the general real estate community. That could be clients and people, consumers, but also agents out there. And so I was volunteering for the Habitat for Humanity Bags Tournament at Sagwagon, which was really cool. So I was giving out raffle tickets. My son joined, and that's where you and I first met and just talked a little bit and decided that we should grab lunch sometime, which we did. And that was a cool event to start for me. And then, I visited your event that you did not too much longer, the one you organized for the Realtor Olympics. And these are all great causes that raise money for good things. Maybe tell a little bit about what the Olympics one was for, as far as how that worked?
Yeah. So the Realtor Olympics is a fundraising event put on by the Cedar Rapids Area Association of Realtors Scholarship Committee. So it's an official committee under, or that is full of realtors. We're technically a separate entity because we are a 501c3. So we're separate from the association, and in order to ensure that the funds that we bring in through donations from agents are tax deductible, but also that we can redistribute with no tax liability or anything that's going to impact our ability to give back to students. So our scholarship committee has been around for well over 25, 30 years, roughly. Far before I was a real estate agent. So I jumped in 2014, and we were giving between 40 and 50 scholarships out back then. They're $500 scholarships to, at that time, it was only Lynn and Benton counties. I take that back.
Okay.
It was Lynn and Jones counties, I believe. I honestly don't remember now because we've expanded so many times. And then over the last few years, we have grown that to upwards of 80 scholarships. So $40,000 that realtors are donating and helping us fundraise to give back to students in the local area. So currently we cover 4 counties, which is Lynn, Jones, Benton, and Cedar. And the Realtor Olympics helps provide matching funds for those to ensure that every student gets $500. Donors can give either $250 or $500. If they give $250, we match that to make sure every student gets the $500. So that's a little bit about the Olympics and what it benefits.
What age kids get these scholarships, and how do they qualify?
Did you say what age?
Yeah, what age are the kids?
Sure.
Is this one?
So we target this. Yeah. So we target this to graduating seniors or current college students. And so if you're currently in college, whether you've received our scholarship before or not, you would still qualify for the scholarship. Now you do have to attend an Iowa accredited school. It does not have to be a community college or a 4-year. You could go to trade school. We've done a barber. We had a barber that went to school, which I thought was pretty cool. We've done some like auto mechanic type certificates. CNA is another one that we've done. It's to help support their financial burden that they'll experience to further their education and be a productive member of our community. Hopefully they stay. Retention is key, of course. But our scholarship is not merit-based. Our only merit requirement is that you have a 2.0 GPA or higher. Otherwise, it is based on need. So we're asking for financial hardships, familial hardships. What have you experienced in your life that maybe has prevented you from being a 3.5 student, or has it impacted you in ways that you wanted to work hard, you did work hard, you tried, but you've had these roadblocks or obstacles that were out of your control. So we get somewhere between 150 and 200 applications typically a year. And the day that we pick, we read them all. And there's a lot of tears in the room. It's a very emotional day of just listening to these stories that these 17 and 18-year-olds are going through, and all they want is to be better than what they've experienced, do better than what they were given, and be able to provide for others typically. So.
Well, that's really cool. That's what a worthy cause to be a part of. And I'm sure it is tough to make the decision because you have to whittle that down to 80. Is that what you said?
Yeah, typically. So this last year we did 67, so $33,500, and it's so hard. There's so much need out there anymore. But also, when students are writing these essays, they're telling us things that are, make them really vulnerable, and that they don't tell their closest friends, but they're willing to put it in writing and share it with our committee in hopes that they're awarded $500 so that they could pay for books or tuition or room and board or whatever it is that they need to advance their education. They get a $500 check written to them. We don't write it to their school, and they get it July before they go back in August. So we're very intentional about how they get it and when they get it.
I love it. I think that's super cool. So, and you're the chair of this committee, right?
I
And you
am, yeah.
said you've been the chair since, did you say 2014?
No, I've been on the committee since 2014. I was appointed chair 2019-ish, somewhere in there. It's been a few years.
Uh-huh. Are there term
I think we
limits?
all lost COVID years.
Yeah.
Like we think back and we're like, did that happen before COVID or after COVID or during COVID, and you're just like, I don't know. I was at home the whole time.
Yeah. There's a blur.
So it's kind of weird, but are there term limits? Yes. Well, yes and no. So the president, the incoming association president actually gets to appoint somebody based on their experience with the committee, their involvement, their commitment, and whether or not that person has done a good job in the past or somebody has spoken up and said, I'd like a shot at that. So I was asked to be the chair again next year. The incoming president did give me that honor. So I'm grateful for that. But I'm sure there's a president down the road that'll say, it's time for a change if I don't make that decision myself, which I don't tend to do. I tend to hold on to things that I'm passionate about. So
I believe that. And I was being funny when I was saying that, but
yeah, no,
it is interesting.
Yeah.
It's also interesting the knowledge that you have. You have a much bigger knowledge. Like when we were talking about a couple things, you said 503c1,
501c3. Yep.
501c3, which is that a nonprofit designation? Is that what that means? Or
yeah, so that's the IRS nonprofit designation that allows donations to be monetary donations and in-kind donations to be tax deductible for the individual as long as they're not getting any benefits such as advertising or anything like that.
Okay, cool. And then you were also talking about, I liked how you talked about it's a trade association, that the Cedar Rapids Association of Realtors, and then on up the way, right? Iowa Association of Realtors, and then the National Association of Realtors. And you called it a trade organization, right? Which, I mean, that sounds commonsensical now, but, when I'm thinking about it at first, I didn't think that there are other associations also, and we were one of those associations. You know what I mean? So, and I think other people probably think the same way, especially realtors. It's just we know what we know, and that's the Association of Realtors. But there are
here to sell real estate, right? We're here to do business. So we don't think about all the things. We just complain about all the fees that we pay. So anybody thinks that we sell a transaction and we're instantly rich. Nope, that's not how that works. We have a lot of fees to wake up in the morning and show houses and list property and go on appointments that may or may not come to fruition. So if we don't think about it in a trade association or as a trade association, in my opinion, how are we going to ensure that as members that pay these dues are getting the biggest bang for our buck? We're getting back what we want from that association. We're not just handing over dollars to have the realtor name or use the realtor title because that should be held to a high standard, and we should expect a lot of our associations, local, state, and national.
Right. And that's something maybe the public doesn't know about, is that there are multiple associations that we're a part of, starting with the national on down. And then there's the local associations like Cedar Rapids Association, but how many other associations are there in Iowa? Do you know that number?
Yeah, so I keep hearing 17 or 18. There was a little bit of a division up north in the northern part of the state, but then we also had two associations that merged, which does happen. So I believe we have 17 right now across the state. Before NAR changed their guidelines, we had over 45-ish. So we had a lot. Yeah, we had a lot. And so you have a lot of people paying into these small associations and hopefully getting some benefit out of that. So I think when NAR reorged a little bit and we were able to consolidate, I think that provides more benefit. You have more people paying into one local. They can provide more. They have more seats on the MLS. They have more numbers to sell themselves into a 5-year contract and get a better rate on different products, whether that's a safety app or a showing time situation, whatever that might look like. So.
Yeah, and then they also, I think, just popped to my head is they might have a larger lobbying power. Now, the reason I think about that is like the Las Vegas Association of Realtors is massive. It's all one association. They don't have more than one in Clark County. There's the northern part up where the capital is in Reno, and that's a separate one. And I don't know much about that one, except that the Las Vegas one is massive. And I know that a lobby body for lobbying for laws and real estate and protecting consumers and their right to buy and sell homes and all of that is huge. So I think when they're collective that way, then there's some protective power that can be done with those associations protecting the right to own in real estate and keeping those for people out there at the best that they can be. So that's another plus, I think. Do you know if we have a lobby thing here in Iowa?
We do. So I don't know if you know this or not, but they're realtors. We have the largest PAC in the nation. So our PAC, yep. Okay, the realtor political, I think it's Action Committee, but I could be completely wrong. I had to look it up the other day, and I don't know if I had it right. But nonetheless, that's the way I think of it in my mind, is that we're taking action to ensure that the legislators and the legislative body as a whole, when they're coming together, they're keeping. Let me go back to your question, because I will talk about this stuff for hours. This podcast could go on for hours because I'm passionate, and I think that people don't understand it, like you said earlier. But for the state level, we have Jen. She's Jen Apple now. She used to be Jen Kingland. She is our lobbyist at the state. And, as agents, we raise over $500,000 towards our local RPAC goal, just in our state alone, to ensure that Iowans, their private property rights are protected the way we as real estate agents do business. Because again, when law is going to place in the state level, that impacts licensees, not just realtors. So even non-realtor members are impacted by state law. So when our lobbyists are going to fight for what we think is important, whether that's supporting a bill that the Bar Association is putting through, which we probably wouldn't support, but we might. I don't know what the bar does. Never mind. We won't get into that. She goes up to the Capitol and she's constantly putting her name on bills in support of, as well as on bills that the realtor community does not support. Things that might increase property taxes, not rolling back a levy when prices and assessments are at an all-time high and people are hurting. Those are things that our lobbyist Jen would go and fight for. And she brings that back to the realtor. She says, what do you guys want? What do you need? There's some new legislation around teams, real estate teams, that was brought forth by our RPAC dollars. And then also for homeowners associations, which have been the wild, wild west, right? You have all these volunteers, they're showing up, which we appreciate. They chose to buy into an association, but we need people to be responsible for the funds. And if a homeowner in that association is requesting documents, bylaws, covenants, amendments, those types of things, financials, they should have access to those at little to no cost. There's associations out there that are charging hundreds of dollars just for a homeowner to receive those, not a real estate agent, not a potential buyer. So in the state, we haven't done anything with the fees yet. They want to work on that, but right now they will be. It'll be mandated that the homeowners associations have to submit their bylaws publicly to the Secretary of State's office, is my understanding, is where they're going to hold that, so that there's an ease of access for real estate transactions. But it also allows those homeowners in the association access as well. So different things like that Jen and the real estate population or the realtor population, are constantly working towards. I'm sure talking about COVID, and one day we'll get tired of talking about COVID, but there were a lot of states that real estate agents weren't allowed to do business anymore. They weren't allowed to do open houses. They weren't allowed to do private showings because it wasn't safe, or they could only work on transactions that were already under contract, in progress. They're on their way to the closing table. Not all states deemed real estate agents as essential workers, right? So Iowa did, and our RPAC dollars assisted with ensuring that real estate agents here could continue to do business and that we were deemed essential by our governor. So there's a lot that our PAC does. And if you're not an investor, I want to know why. And not you specifically, but anybody that's on this call across the nation or that will listen to this later, I want to know why. And I want to know what we can do to change your mind, because those dollars are going to impact the way we do business today and in the future. And if we don't focus now, we're going to be, we know what's going on in the real estate industry. We need to ensure that we're fighting for those private property rights and for real estate agents to be able to conduct business. So,
like you said, if you're not an investor, is that what you said?
yes.
You mean like an investor that buys real estate, or an investor in the RPAC? What do you mean?
Good clarification. So we call people who give money, real estate agents who give money to RPAC, you're an investor. So RPAC dollars are political funds, so they're not tax deductible, right? You can't write that off on your business. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I need a tax break. I love politics. I'm going to write a big check. That's not how that works. It's not tax deductible funds, right? Which is probably a good thing in some capacities. Yeah. Now there are some other avenues, but I'm not an accountant, so talk to your accountant about that. But an investor for RPAC, the minimum investment for a year is $15. And you're like, $15? What? We have 1.5 million members in this association in the nation. $15 times 1.5, that's a lot of funds to ensure that private property rights are protected, but also real estate agents are able to conduct business in the way that we want to and we see fit to protect the consumer. So Cedar Rapids, for example, since that's the market that you and I are in, we have typically about a 70 to 75% participation rate. So again, those individuals are giving, they're giving at least $15. And at the state level, I believe they have like a goal of 30 major investors, which is $1,000 in a year's time. And we typically get close to about 100. So we have a pretty good track record in the state for investing and, ensuring that our voices are heard at the Capitol. We meet with our legislators a couple times a year.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to be more involved with that. I saw a couple of, were they dinners or happy hours for the RPAC where you can donate the 500 and all of that. And then I think there's even a bigger one where it's like you commit to like $1,000 for 10 years or something, or what is it? Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
one?
So I don't. Okay. I'm not quite that elite yet. So, I'm a major investor, so I give $1,000 a year. And that can be through you could write a check. You could buy something at an auction. So we do fundraisers for RPAC. Every dollar that you spend on an RPAC event, even your registration fee, counts as your participation. And so that goes towards the local and state goal, but also monetarily, but also the number of investors that we have that helps. Okay, cool. So for anybody I need to get something for my money. If you don't see the way that we write a contract, the essential workers during COVID, or some of the other things that RPAC has been able to pull off, and you need to see something physical, go buy something at an auction. I don't care how you make your investment. That $60 Lululemon bag that was $30 online, you paid an extra $30, but 60 of that, all 60 went to a great cause and a PAC that is going to stand up for the people. So
I like doing both, personally, and I've done different, fundraising things or purchasing things at galas and fundraisers for lots of different causes. And it's fun to get like a Hawaii trip or something, for
absolutely.
And you're also supporting a good cause or whatever it is. So, but I'd like to be more involved. So if you could be helpful in either invite me or push me to come to whatever events they are. I mean, I see them and then I'm like, I'm busy, but I feel like if I want to be more involved is what I'm saying. So
let's make this public right now for the millions of people that are going to watch your video. Yes. Have you ever invested in RPAC?
But not in a significant way, only the minimum in 3 different places, though I do it in 3 states. So it's a little more than normal, but
sure. The minimum. Have you invested locally in Cedar Rapids? Did you do the $52 above the line billing?
I believe so. I mean, I believe I do every time. I think it's 52 every time I do it.
Yep. Unless you opt out. Here's my challenge to you. Yeah. Send Christy an email. Ask her what your current investment is. And then
send who?
Christy over at the association an email, ask her what your current investment is, and then add to it in whatever way you think you can. It doesn't have to be $1,000. You don't have to become a major investor overnight, but that's my challenge to you to finish out your year. And then we can circle back, and there's not really many more events this year, but next year it all starts all over. So
so next year I'll be more involved and just help be my accountability partner with that. And
absolutely.
I'd like to go, and it's nice to have somebody when you go to these events and stuff. And anyway, so, but yeah, Tara, help me remember to email Christy, and we'll get that stuff figured out. A couple of things I wanted to touch on that you were talking about is, first of all, funny thing about the HOA docs, not being accessible. Well, and then costing so much money to get those accessibility. Back in the day, they actually printed those docs. So you would get a phone book full of docs, depending on, maybe in Iowa it's not quite as much, but like I remember in Las Vegas, they were massive, these huge articles and all the things and all the rules and regulations. And then they went digital, and I'm like, and you're still charging like $300 for a thing that you email in seconds? Like, you're not even shipping or mailing anything, So same thing. So they reined that in and start regulating that. I'm not sure exactly what they're charging for those, but it's just silly. Those guys can get kind of a little bit predatory, even, I think, the HOA things. And it's important for a community, a homeowner, if you're living in an HOA, make sure you're going to those board meetings and that you're a part of, and you're seeing the financials, and you're asking questions about the financials and the reserves. And, are we spending money on this? And do we have enough money? Do we have enough dues coming in to pay for, future fixes and things that we need to work on the infrastructure? So all that's
a $5 increase in your association dues every couple of years is a lot better to digest than, oh my goodness, we didn't plan for 10 years. Here's an assessment that we have to give everybody.
Assessment,
and now you're, and a lot of times they don't ever remove them, right? They're like, oh, we're going to increase your association fees for this long. Yeah. And then they get to that point, they're like, well, it still really wasn't enough. It was just to cover what we didn't plan for, but we also didn't plan ahead again. So, I've seen association fees jump $20+ a month. And if you do that more than once in 5 years, your people are going to get frustrated. Your residents, your community members, your neighbors are going to get frustrated. And showing up to the meeting is great. Asking questions, looking at the financials, you can avoid some of that and be a little bit more proactive if you notice that your reserves are low, or you identify areas where there might be a concern or an issue. Older roof, if your parking lot is having concerns, those types of things people don't look at until it's too late. And then they're either not affordable and nobody else to pay for it, or you don't have a choice but to replace a roof. Otherwise your neighbor is getting leaked on, and that's a hard pill to swallow. So
another quick thing, I'll just tell a crazy story about a couple of different associations in Las Vegas that had private golf course communities in the middle of them, two of them. And then what the private golf course decided to sell to a real estate developer, and they immediately quit taking care of the golf courses, and they turned into just weeds and wildlife and all that. And then the plan is to eventually develop those into houses. So all the people that paid premiums for the lots to have those golf course views, they're going to be gone. And so all that stuff is to say, and here's the thing. So they could have the associations could have bought those golf courses and paid for a manager, all that stuff, and ran those. And now that's all they talk about is, why didn't we buy it? And I remember when the issues were going on during the time, and it sounds like a lot of money, but it wasn't. These are huge communities, so it's pricey, but it was manageable. It would have been manageable. And now they wish they would have, because all their property values went way down because they're not a golf course community. Not only that, but they got a bunch of overgrown weeds and stuff out in the middle of their thing. Or just think if they build those into houses, then all their views and all that stuff goes. So all that's just to say that it's important to think big picture, but also be really involved in your HOA community if you have one like that.
Yeah. And if you're going to buy into an association, just understand what you're buying into and ask the tough questions up front, because it's too it's way too challenging later. You've got people who've lived there for 5-10 years. They're set in their ways. They've decided, they've talked about rentals. They've talked about, the parking lot. They've talked about the landscaping. And if you come in and you try to change it, it's challenging. So understanding that up front is important.
Yep. Very good. So, we were talking about, here's just a question. Do you know if different states have more than one lobby representative? Like you were talking about Jen Apple. Do some have more than one, do you know? Or is it just one?
That's a good question.
Is there if you have a bigger association or something, do you get more people? I don't know. Because when I think of a lobbyist committee or whatever, I was thinking of kind of like a small group of people, you know what I mean, that show up to places. But I really don't know.
Yeah, so a lot of associations have what's called a GAD, which is a governmental affairs director. And so they work closely with that state lobbyist. I don't understand lobbying. That is such a bizarre concept to show up and argue with people.
They're like a gang. They show up to fight.
It's such an interesting thing. And I love listening to Jen talk, whenever she speaks or whenever I get a chance to one-on-one with her.
Look her up.
It's always interesting. I'm like, Jen, I don't know that I don't know what we do without you, but two, I don't know how you do what you do. You have to make, or you have to build and foster, positive relationships with all people, all sides of the aisle. And even if you don't like them or they're not. Probably. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And she is she's well respected. The realtor community is well respected at the state level, at least in Iowa, because of Jen and the what she's built. So in the state of Iowa, we have Jen, and then we have Greta. She's the GAD, so she's the governmental affairs director. So she assists Jen in watching legislation, bills, talking to local associations. She has a pretty big role, actually, of just kind of ensuring that she's bringing all this together so that when Jen's going to support something or not support it, or when we're going to have 5 talking points to talk to our local representatives, they're working very closely on that. There are some larger local associations, not in the state of Iowa, that they have their own GAD. So you might have, a local association like Cedar Rapids, but much larger, that has a GAD that works with the GAD at the state level. And so they're kind of all working together. So when you mention, a group of people, probably where there's more than 8,000 agents, right? So we have 8,000 realtor members in about 8,200 in Iowa. So maybe we don't need more than one GAD, but in other parts of the country, I'm sure they have a bigger team, even if it's still one lobbyist.
I mean, think of California. It's just massive. I mean, it's a big state and there's so many people and there's different sections. So I'm sure they have a little bit more.
You shared with me one time the membership at one of those, maybe it was San Diego or something, a number of
18
agents.
or 19,000 in the main one.
That's
and
insane.
There's 11 or 12 associations, maybe even 13 in San Diego by itself. There are 42, I think is the right number, 42,000 licensees in San Diego. Isn't that crazy? So it's
that's insane. That's an average Iowa town. Actually, that's larger than an average Iowa town. There's more agents in San Diego than most of the towns in Iowa.
Well, there are more
have
people
population.
In the San Diego. Well, there's 3 million people in San Diego County, and there's 3 million people in the state of Iowa. So,
yeah,
which, in my opinion, is a great thing because they're both good in different ways. But it's kind of nice to have that density level lower. It has a lighter feel to it. Whereas it's dense in San Diego. You're not by yourself pretty much ever. So. There are trades, right? There's great weather. There's lots of food, dining, entertainment. There's the ocean, the beach, all that. So there's different things, right? So it just depends on kind of what priorities are and which way. I love them both for different reasons. But
yeah, I couldn't imagine having 42,000 agents in the state of Iowa, let alone in a metro like that. It's wild, but that's cool. I'm glad that works for them. And I've been to San Diego. Beautiful, lots of fun, lots to do. And that's wild.
It's cool. But that's why when you're there too, it's like everybody you talk to has a brother, cousin, uncle, whatever that everybody says, "Oh, my son's a realtor." I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm glad you know somebody, but like, do they sell real estate actively? Do they do it full time? Do they understand this market? Do they understand how to negotiate? Do they have to do? So there's questions you ask, but there's a lot. There's a lot of them. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's areas like that. Whenever we go to national training, they say, "Oh, the average person knows 12 agents."
Yeah.
Not in Iowa. Not where I'm at. I mean, people here know people, but
Sure.
it's very, very different.
It is, and that's
which I think is cool.
Thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
super cool to understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel grateful that I'm a part of so many different places and that I get to learn about the differences and the nuances and plug in, in the ways that I can. So, I mean, I might not have a whole lot of knowledge in here, but I do have some knowledge on different things and perspectives. So that's kind of cool.
Well, and you can take from one market what we're not doing. Like if we're not doing something that San Diego is, as we all know, the coasts typically are ahead of us, right? In technology, trends, fads, all the things. And so if you can bring some of that to your business here, because you're aware, and agents don't have to be licensed in California to pay attention. They can be watching what agents are doing from across the country and bringing those trends or whatever it is, technology to their own business and setting themselves apart from the other 8,000 agents in our state, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there when you understand that markets are different. They participate differently in real estate, they act differently, and they transact business differently than we do. So
yep, and you hit the nail on the head, and that's something that I've always enjoyed doing because I've worked at a lot of not only just different states and whatever, but I've worked at a lot of different offices, real estate offices, about 7 or 8, and sometimes multiple ones at the same time, right? So one thing that I love with that is the perspective I get, and then I love to share with like, hey, here is a way that could be better, right? Or here are some things that they're doing well over here that I think you could really take advantage of and raise the level here, and it would be a win-win for everybody. And that's the same in Iowa, coming from what I did, a few years ago. And there's some people that really embrace that. And they're like, wow, tell me more. What can we do? That's amazing. And then there's some that are like, we don't do it like that. And that's fine. And that is also the same way, even when I went from Vegas to San Diego. So you're going to get those people kind of wherever you go. And what kind of I enjoy is at least sharing the possibilities and hopefully raising the bar, what's possible in a positive way everywhere I go. So, I mean, that's one thing that I enjoy to do. So you're right. So if you ever want to powwow on what they're doing in the West Coast, I'm here for you. All the people in the crowd, Raymond, whoever wants to. You know what we did? We're getting low on time here, but we probably grazed over your history in real estate. I'd love to know about when you got into real estate, where you started, why did you get into real estate? And then maybe that can even lead into why you got involved with the association so deep. Maybe like a 5-minute type thing.
Yeah, I'm really good at keeping things. I talk a lot, so bear with me. I actually, you don't know this, but I sent Tara a direct message, and I was like, if I'm talking too long, nudge me.
Go over. There's no real set time. We go 45 minutes to an hour, so it's just in there. Sure. But I know people like you and I will talk forever, so I give 5 minutes when I know we need like 10 or 15.
Yep, that's fair. So I got into the business. I was licensed in April of 2013. My previous career was retail management, and I actually started as a temp employee at a retail store in the mall when malls were cool and they were lively and people.
The mall here? Like Linda?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. What store were you going to share?
So I will. So it's Aeropostale is how most people say it, but yeah. So Aeropostale, young kids brand.
Is there a right way to say that? I didn't know. That's what I would say.
Aeropostale.
Aeropostale, not Aeropostale.
Correct. But that, I think their transition, they started as, I think part of like a Kohl's or some sort of big department store, is where they got their start. And then they moved out into their independent locations. And so I think there was some transitional loss there, but they focused primarily on, teenage, young, trendy, bright color, all the fun stuff. And so I started there as a temp when I was young. I don't know how old I was, 20 something, maybe 19, 20. And I enjoyed it. Retail wasn't my passion. It wasn't where I thought I saw myself, but I worked my way up very quickly into the management role, several management roles, and then was offered the store management position in 2012, of which I did one holiday season, decided this is not for me. I'm a hard worker, but I do not enjoy being yelled at. And that is what happens in retail during the busy season is district managers, regional managers, they're tough on you because that's their bread and butter. They pay the rest, they pay the rest of the year's bills with the holiday season. And I appreciated the pressure and the push, but I thought if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to go work for myself. And so I decided to sell my first house, not knowing what the heck I was getting myself into, knowing that I needed a little bit of I needed some reserves. And in 2013, got my license. Started with the largest family-owned brokerage in Iowa. They have 13 offices in Iowa, and was there about for 4.5 years. Nope. Rule and rule. Yep. So eastern side of the state, basically Cedar Rapids, Iowa City to the east, and wonderful company, a lot of training. I would not still be an agent
from there so far.
Yeah, I would not be an agent today if I didn't. At least the agent that I am today, if I didn't have the training that they provided and the support. So an amazing company. And then in 2017, I moved my license over to Keller Williams Legacy Group. And so Keller Williams, most people know, is a national brand, but it's it's been in Cedar Rapids since 2016. So I wouldn't say new anymore, but still fairly newer to the market.
Compared to rule, maybe.
Yeah, and like your Coldwell Banker and your Remax and all of that, so some of those other national names that people might know. So Keller Williams came in. Keller
Williams is new to Iowa, relatively. I remember when they were first coming around. Des Moines, I think, is where they started, right? And you and I both. I was KW for years and years. That's where I started, and wonderful company, great place, great agents, good culture, all that stuff. So. Every company I think can be great. I suppose there's some maybe real little ones with a real poopy broker or something that might not be good, but those are few and far between. I think for the most part, if they're sticking around, they won't last long if they're not, professional and good and having everybody's best interest in mind.
You're going to run your own business, right? You got to jump in, take advantage, learn, be disciplined. So you can't show up to this business at 1 p.m. and do what everybody else has been working for 3 hours, 4 hours, right? They already picked up that client. They already answered the phone. They already responded to the email, the realtor.com lead. If you're not doing that, you're going to struggle. But if you show up and treat this like your career and a job and you're the owner, right? So would you fire yourself for not doing that? Then don't do it. That's the key here in this business. And so there's ample opportunity to be successful.
You're very right. It's consistency and drive and problem solving and education and coming from contribution, all those things. But discipline is probably just showing up. And, I have a coaching program that basically breaks it down into a 23-hour success work week, which I'm happy to share with you. We have that, I think, written out now. It's super basic. If you're just doing these money-making activities, these business activities on a weekly basis, you'll be successful in any market. Of course, you can do more and add more, but these are the minimum things that you need to do. It's just prospecting, open house, previewing and or showing houses. And that's basically it, and it's about building relationships and all that.
I love that you make it so easy. That sounds just like my day.
You know
No
what?
accounting, no marketing, no social media.
Well, you're right. But it's the things I see agents all the time getting really good at being busy, not making money. So I break it down to the minimum things that you need to do in a day and a week that are money making activities. These are non negotiables. If you don't do those, then feel free to make less money or get out of the business, which, many of realtors do. They start out and they don't, the attrition rate is quite high. So if you just do these basic little things each month and week, then your success rate will be much higher. But there's a lot of people that give excuses, as the bold law says, you can have excuses or you can have results, and you can't have both, right?
It's a lot more fun to make a pretty flyer than it is to make that uncomfortable phone call. I mean, let's be honest. That's what a lot of this comes down to when you're talking about prospecting and, being actively involved in those money-making activities. If you're not talking to anybody, how are you making money? You can't be. You can't sell real estate to the other agents in your office. It's not going to happen. And your friends and family are only going to buy from you so often, and they may not buy from you ever because they don't want you. They know another agent. They don't trust you with their financial information.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you're right on when you talk about focus on those money-making activities. Everything else is extra. They're the things that you can assign to somebody else, whether that be somebody as amazing as Tara, who takes care of you and makes sure that you know your own URL. And then, or,
it's all right.
You don't need to, right? You're going to show up regardless. She's going to make sure you're on time, and you're going to do the things that keep you actively involved with communicating directly with people. And sounds like that's what your program is based on, is being involved with people.
Yeah. I mean, I had a mentor once tell me that, if you're not getting the results that you need in real estate or want, or you're not making the money that you want, then you need to have more conversations with strangers about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. And that is real estate in the simplest form. So you need more money, you need more anything. You need to have more conversations with more strangers. And then there's follow-up too, of course. But the initial part is having questions. And then for mine, in my whole system, there's a part that talks about the conversations you have in a day. The minimum words out of your mouth have to be, do you or anyone you know, or are you or anyone you know interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate? And then that counts as the minimum to that conversation to count toward your daily goal of conversations. You know what I mean? So that down to the minimum.
I appreciate that. I've never heard it put that way. You always hear like, you need to make 5 or 10 calls every day, 25 to 50 calls a week.
Yep.
But there's not a lot about what constitutes a contact, right? Like you just said hi to somebody. They said hi back. Right. Is that enough to make that connection, that they remember that you're an agent? Do they know you're an agent? Have you ever told them? And so I think that's a great way to put it, is that, are you or somebody that you know interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate? If you ask that question every time you talk to somebody, how can you not count that? They know you're an agent and they know you're ready to help them. So, and you're adding value because you're asking them if they are interested. And if so, most likely that conversation moves to, how can I help? What can I do for you to ensure that you're successful with those goals or real estate goals regarding whatever they're saying yes to?
Yep. And then people are like, well, so-and-so, whoever I'm talking to or whatever, who I might talk to, I know they just bought a house, or they're my relative or whatever. And they're not interested. Well, that's why we ask if them or anyone they know interested in buying. So great. Do you know somebody else that I might be able to help today? Another thing that helps get over the scary phone calls to people that, maybe you don't know if they want to talk to you is, this one I like to ask people to think about. Do you think that you could help somebody buy or sell real estate, right? Like you could actually help them. Do you think that in our city today, that there's somebody that is in an abusive relationship, getting a divorce, had somebody pass away, all these things, and they really actually need help selling their house?
Getting married, having a child. Yeah.
So do you think that you could help that person if you could find them? So probably the answer is yes. So your mission today is to find the person that you could help today. get out of this bad situation. They really need your help and they don't know where to start or where to go. So you can be that saving person and come in and help them, get to whatever they need to go. So then when you think about it that way and you're calling people to try to find that person you can help, if somebody says, well, trash and blah, blah, they bite your head off, say, thanks a bunch. You're not the person I was meant to help today. On to the next one. Find the person you can help.
Yeah.
Right.
And the best part about it being October 10th, we have 65 days, right? Roughly left of this, a little bit more than that, 75 days. Mm-hmm. If most transactions close between 45 and 60 days, that gives you 2 weeks to prospect, show houses, get them under contract, and still close a deal by the end of the year if you're not thrilled with their numbers, whether that's units, volume, whatever that looks like. And making those phone calls, making those connections, talking to those strangers, seeking out those opportunities where people are in a need, they have their pain point, right? Their house is too small, it's too big, it's not the right location, wrong school district, or whatever it might be. That will turn to dollars before December 31st for most transactions in our area. Our transactions don't go 90 plus days. That's not typical. So great time to start thinking about that and using that mentality to get on the phone and making those contacts, legitimate contacts.
And everybody out there, so Raymond is a tremendous leader and a teacher, and he wants to help people do better. If you need help, and I'm here for that as well all the time, as most people know that. But if you need some help in Cedar Rapids in this area with getting better production and needing help on, I don't know where to go or what to do, well, I suggest you reach out to Raymond and have a conversation. Raymond will, I'm sure, and I don't mean to speak for you, but I figure that you would be willing to help people get on track if they need it.
I'm over here going, you're the one with the system. I don't have a system. I just talk and talk and talk until you believe me. No, I'm always happy to help answer questions, especially if it's association related, brokerage related, training related. I am a certified instructor with the state as well. So I have taught some classes within my brokerage and will continue to do so. And anything that I can do to add value to an agent's life, whether it's personal or professional, I'm happy to do so. But I think that you will find there are more agents out there that are willing to do that and share their secret sauce. If you ask, you share what your needs are. And, it's not as secret as we all make it out to be. We can all be successful. But we need to hold ourselves to a high level of professionalism. We need to market ourselves appropriately. And we need to make sure that we have systems and things in place to build that trust with the community and our clients so that whether it's you, myself, or the next agent, we're conducting business in a manner in which we're all proud of and the community can lean on us and trust us. And they will call you first before they call the other person that didn't talk to them or before they try to do something on their own that could, lead them down a path that they are not comfortable with. So,
yep. Yeah, well, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. In a nutshell, these are all great things that you can do. I think we covered a lot of cool topics on how agents can be more involved in our associations and committee. And I think for people that are watching that are not in the business, it's probably insightful to know how some of that stuff works. So Raymond and I here are both here for you all and happy to help with any way we can. Thanks again for coming on the show today, Raymond. Actually, what's your phone number or how can somebody get a hold of you?
Thanks for having me. Phone number 319-329-6102. Text or phone call is good. I can give you my email, but my email policy is I'll get back to you when I see it because I don't know where it's going to end up in my inbox. But no, that's not true. I have a 24-hour rule on all my emails. But text and phone are going to be the best way to get a hold of me. And I would love to get more agents involved in the association. It doesn't have to be our association. I'll talk to you about the benefits for myself personally, as well as your members that you love working with and you're going to do more transactions with. So,
well, I want to be more involved in that. So let's work on that together. And the together of me doing more work, being involved however I can. Thanks again for coming on. And thank you all for joining us today on this episode of Sharpen the Saw on the Wise Agent Society Zoomcast. Next Actually, you know what? This Thursday we won't be having a national real estate news because I'm having septum surgery on my nose. I'm having a couple different procedures on my nose. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be out of commission on Thursday, or at least have stuff in my nose. I don't know. Really don't know what to expect. I was like, I don't ever remember even breaking my nose or anything. But he's like, no, you do, and this and that. And so hopefully I can breathe a lot better after that. So thank you all for joining, and have a great day, and see you next time. Oh, I get to stop the recording.
Yeah.
Actually, before we stop the recording, we're supposed to make, like, I don't know, something for the thumbnail. So it's going to be like the opening shot or whatever, on a YouTube thumbnail. So you can just like make a whatever face you want or whatever. I don't know. I make funny ones.
So it's just a snapshot. Then it's just a picture, and that's kind of, is it like just the introduction or something
on it? So like I like to move my hands or just whatever, or just something different. It's whatever. So
if we weren't on Zoom, it'd be a lot less awkward. Like,
well, nobody's.
Don't put that on there. Whoever's editing this, that one's not allowed.
You can just do this. You can do whatever. It's not really, it's just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Take one
I don't
of
know
these,
how
right?
I don't know how he pulls them anyway. It's just better than like just like a.
Well, catching us while we're talking and our mouth is open, we're not looking, our eyes are closed. And I get it. A little more intentional on, hey, I get it.
Cool. Here, I'll stop the recording.